It is Sunday, October the 12th. I'm Ali Velshi, and we begin this hour with a dangerous new disinformation campaign coming from the White House, one that's playing a crucial role in accelerating the authoritarian slide that we're witnessing unfolding in real. Storytelling is central to consolidating the kind of power that it takes to build an authoritarian regime. And right now, Donald Trump is telling a story about crime, danger, and violence to justify a massive power grab and a brutal crackdown on dissent. He's ordered unwanted, unwelcome, unneeded, and legally dubious National Guard deployments to cities that are run by Democrats like Los Angeles, Chicago, and Portland, Oregon, claiming the streets of those American cities are war-ravaged by crime, equating protests there to insurrection, and calling for the jailing of their leaders for standing in the way of his crackdown. After the killing of conservative activist Charlie Kirk, the president released a video condemning political violence. But instead of calling for calm across the board, he blamed only the radical left, highlighting incidents of violence against conservatives while conveniently omitting a long list of recent attacks on Democrats, judges, and government workers. Telling only half the story was no accident. It was a deliberate attempt. Trump is crafting a narrative in which the radical left is portrayed as inherently violent, dangerous, and illegitimate.
I'll tell you something that's going to get me in trouble, but I couldn't care less. The radicals on the right oftentimes are radical because they don't want to see crime. They don't want to see crime.
Worried about the border.
They're saying, we don't want these people coming in. We don't want you burning our shopping centers. We don't want you shooting our people in the middle of the street. The radicals on the left are the problem. And they're vicious, and they're horrible, and they're politically savvy.
Why make the case that violence is only on one side? It seems to be taking place.
I didn't say it's on one side, but I say the radical left causes tremendous violence, and they seem to do it in a bigger way. But the radical left really is caused a lot of problems for this country. I really think they hate our country.
Who do you hold responsible for the uptick in left-wing violence in the country?
Radical left rhetoric. The radical left is causing the problem. The radical left is causing this problem. Not the right, the radical left. And it's going to get worse, and ultimately it's going to go back on them. I mean, bad things happen when they play these games. And I'll give you a little clue. The right is a lot tougher than the left.
Now, once enough of the public buys into that premise that a sinister and calculating radical left is to blame for violence and crime and unrest, it becomes far easier to rationalize extraordinary measures to silence, monitor, or punish people on the left. And that's the next step in turning radical left violence from a mere talking point into a political weapon. A dangerously cynical strategy that lumps together a broad spectrum of people who oppose Trump's policies, Democrats, judges, lawyers, journalists, campus organizers, even public health workers, into a single enemy bloc. If you recast criticism and protest and journalism as elements of a violent fringe movement, you lay the rhetorical groundwork for crackdowns that once seemed unthinkable. Just as Joseph McCarthy's accusations of communism justified blacklists and loyalty oaths in the 1950s, or the Palmer raids of the 1920s swept up labor organizations and immigrants under the guise of national security. Those chapters are now remembered as some of the darkest stains on American democracy, moments when fear was weaponized to silence dissent, when innocent people lost their jobs, their reputations, even their freedom for nothing more than their beliefs. History judges those episodes harshly, because they revealed how fragile democracy becomes when the state is allowed to decide which ideas are dangerous. And yet, that same playbook is now being dusted off, this time under the banner of radical left violence. As the author and journalist Thom Hartmann writes, quote, "The newest big lie for 2025 is that America is racked by radical left violence, leading to the disintegration of law and order in our cities. They're using this to censor speech, to ban comedians and commentators, to prosecute people, including lifelong Republicans who've spoken out against Trump, violently attack protesters, justify the monopolization of our media by right-wing billionaires. They're using far-left violence as their excuse to dismantle our rights, impose soldiers on our cities run by Democrats, and pour your tax dollars into extreme policing and militarization of our society," end quote. This strategy's been brewing for years. There were the alt-left after Charlottesville, the radical left during the 2020 George Floyd protests, and on the campaign trail, Trump referred to his political enemies as vermin and radical left lunatics. Now, with the phrase radical left violence repeated ad nauseum, it's become a blueprint for targeting the left, culminating in false claims of a shadow network funding violence that the federal government must supposedly root out. Now, here's how this looks in practice. Agency propaganda. The Housing and Urban Development homepage ran a bright red banner blaming a looming government shutdown on the radical left. It's not housing policy. That's reinforcing a lie on a taxpayer-funded website. Executive overreach, an order purported to designate Antifa a domestic terrorist organization, even though, for better or for worse, U.S. law doesn't provide any legal mechanism to designate domestic groups, and Antifa isn't actually a formal group. It's got no membership, no address, no representatives. It's a loose, leaderless affiliation. A follow-on directive told DOJ, DHS, Treasury, and even the IRS to prioritize investigations into alleged networks and scrutinize progressive nonprofits' tax-exempt status. Translation? Attach the stigma of terror to civil society and turn ordinary compliance tools into instruments for policing speech. The dangerous shift from rhetoric to force. The White House has leaned on National Guard deployments in Democratic-led cities and even flirted with invoking the Insurrection Act, casting dissent-heavy jurisdictions as war zones. And once speech is branded as terror, the barrier against using extraordinary force begins to crumble. In just a matter of weeks, the White House and its allies have gone from smearing the left in the abstract to directly naming and targeting cornerstone liberal funders and institutions. Above all, George Soros's Open Society Foundation, but also the Ford Foundation, threatening them with investigations, RICO charges, and even the loss of their tax-exempt status. Their goal is to hobble the left's operating system, the network of grant makers and nonprofits that underpins things like voting rights, immigrant legal aid, reproductive health care, climate and racial justice work, civic education, and journalism. If you can freeze the funders and tie up the grantees, you starve the entire field. The First Amendment protects speech, including offensive speech. Government can punish violence and true threats. It cannot punish beliefs. Let me repeat that. It cannot punish beliefs. When officials imply that criticizing the president is incitement or that supporting a cause makes you part of a terror network, they're not keeping you safe. They're policing thought. They're consolidating power. Once speech equals violence for the out-group, you can justify almost anything: blacklists, loyalty tests, surveillance, dragnets, even troop deployments under the banner of restoring order. The target started with college students, but the dragnet has steadily widened. Republicans who've broken with Trump, virtually any Democrat, academics whose research or teaching challenges his agenda, reporters whose stories cut too close, lawyers and judges and organizations focused on immigrants' rights, reproductive rights, voting rights. The label continues to expand until it sweeps in almost anyone even mildly critical of the government. And that is the hallmark of authoritarianism. If you had the luxury of looking the other way when college students, whose opinions perhaps you didn't share, were being targeted, remember that fact. The label expands because people look the other way. And if you think characterizing the work of nonprofits as radical is not a big deal, you should know that people inside that sector are already adapting, sometimes in ways that prove that a chilling effect is fully underway. Ashley Subramanian Montgomery, who advises nonprofits, warns that some groups are removing content from their websites that could make them targets. She warns that even the threat of defunding could cause people to start self-censoring, then change programming completely, saying, quote, then there wouldn't even be a civil society to push back on government policy, end quote. We have seen this before in America. From McCarthy's maps of imagined subversives to Red Scare flowcharts linking unions and civil rights leaders and newspapers, but today's danger is the speed and scale of this disinformation ecosystem. Radical left violence is the new disinformation banner under which the ambitions of a strong man are marching. Government has a compelling interest in stopping violence, but it has zero mandate to criminalize ideas. The line between punishing crimes in which we, the people, and our government share an interest and punishing viewpoints is not pedantry. It's the guardrail between a free society and one where power decides who may speak and when.